It's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a romping 10-12.
Boyle Sports has it all. Money back meetings every day. UK and Irish racing live streaming. Extra places and money back all losers offers. And a bet 10 get 40 welcome offer. Boyle Sports, this is betting.
Hello and welcome back to the Champ.ie podcast, now proudly sponsored by Boyle Sports. Mr. Groome, good to see you. 3 years on the roads, and looking, we pulled out some stats here. Over 250,000 views as well in that time frame. 60 plus special guests, and in terms of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge, we've been in profit 2 years. No thanks to yourself.
You had to get that little dig in, yeah. Look, fair play to you, Basil. Fair play to you. It's great to have Boyle Sports involved. Obviously, a huge name in Irish racing. And you're doing this 3 years. I think I'm involved 2 years. Great to be involved with the lads. And look, it's all for the fun of it for us. We always did it off our own time. We didn't have the major budgets that other these big racing podcasts have and do full time. So it's great that we have Boyle Sports involved now and we can kick it on now and really get stuck into it. So yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was in the pipeline for the last couple of weeks and we got it over the line. So big thanks to everyone in Boyles. And of course, look, what's an offer for viewers, I suppose. And thank you to the viewers, because in fairness, this wouldn't have been possible if, we haven't built up, a loyal, I suppose, listenership, and what's going back your way as a listener to follow the channel. Exclusive offers, price boost, free bets, and giveaways on a weekly basis. So I suppose looking at this particular show, we're going to be taking, myself and Ronan are going to be working. It's play on as usual for everybody else, but we're going to be taking Boyle Sports prices. But we're not going to just take the price. We're going to get enhancements on them every week. And that's going back your way. So lots coming, I suppose. Obviously, the two shows, as is the Monday show, focusing very much on Cheltenham, and then Thursday, the show looking towards the weekend. So lots more coming. But Ronan, let's, I suppose, rattle on, because this is episode number 4 now of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. The first section of the show that we look at every single week, of course, is the prospect star ratings. We've taken 7 performances. I've given you 4, given you the donkey work. I've been too busy with sponsorship. You're getting the 4 and getting the 3 this week. What a weekend's racing we had. So the first section is, of course, the prospect star rating.
Boyle Sports, this is betting.
Yeah, so there we go. The star ratings are on screen. You will see, obviously, the 7 performances. Ronan, you've taken Constitution Hill, La Press, Jet Powered, and Dawn Rising. Where are you going to start?
Well, there's no place else to start really than with the horse they're calling the Frankel over hurdles. I've heard him referred to. Look, he was sensational, wasn't he? If you couldn't not give him 5 stars, it was absolutely brilliant. For me, Constitution Hill, my one nagging doubt with him was he as impressive as he looked into Supreme? Was that a function of the way that race was run? As in, it was run at a breakneck speed, John Bon and Dysart Dynamo up front, and did he pick them off and look more impressive than he actually was? Granted, it was always good performance, but I think he showed at Newcastle on Saturday. He went off from the front. There was a brilliant piece of analysis done on Sky Sports Racing by Jamie Lynch. I'd implore anyone to look at it. He compared Constitution Hill's fighting fifth with the one that Bouvardere won on very similar ground, and it just showed how far ahead Constitution Hill was of Bouvardere 4 out in the race. Compared them in a split screen. It was absolutely brilliant. It just shows you, to anyone, if you're not into times and it's not something that you look at, this is done very simplistically and showed just how good Constitutional Hill was in the day. He did it the hard way as well in many ways. Did it from the front, went off, kicked one, led them off on his own pace, and then kicked clear. I thought it was a brilliant performance. And I'm scared now for Honeysuckle, because I'm obviously we're very much in the Honeysuckle camp. We'd love to see her stay unbeaten, get the 3 champion hurdles and go out on that. But I mean, I think I speak for a lot of racing fans, would love to see it. But this thing is a freak, this Constitution Hill. And If he gets there on the day, what are we talking now? He's 4-6 for the champion hurdle. Like, there'll be plenty of takers at 4-6 if that's your thing. It's not my thing. It's not my thing to back short prices long term, but there'll be people looking at that performance going, he just can't get beaten. It's just basically showing up. You know, he's got everything in the tank. He's got the obviously the course and distance win, and he's probably one of the best hurdlers we've seen for a very, very, very long time. He's already putting up figures that are better than Honeysuckles. So look, what more can we say? We look forward to seeing him again, and hopefully they do get to have that clash. Obviously, Honeysuckle runs on Sunday at Fairyhays, and we look forward to seeing what she can do. I'll kick on now to Lahan Press. I just love this performance at Newcastle. I love the way Charlie Deutsch gets on with the horse. He just knows him so well. He never looked at any stress up the straight, which was one thing. You think the horse is in behind, he's conceding loads of weight to them. You think they're going to get close to him. It's a dour kind of long straight at Newcastle. You think if you're back them, you're kind of going, geez, Charlie, get into him, you know, or give him a slap and to see if he goes away. But he was always confident. He never had to get him, never came off the bridle. And I just thought he kicked away nicely and done it really smoothly. To find a mark of 164 first time out, I know people say it's not that big of a deal, but he was first time out, and it just shows you that he kicked on again from where he was last year. And he's at the very least 164 horse with scope to improve again. I think he's a huge player if he went for the King George. Reportedly, the owner said after the race that he'd need soft ground there. If he did go, I'd fancy him to beat Braveman's Game. In what looks an open King George this year as well, obviously with Idaho not going over. With regards to the Gold Cup, he's a general 7-1 shot for that now. Live chance, I think, and I wouldn't put anyone off that price.
Yeah, just to mention, big prices. Lots in the comments have got this horse in at 16, 14 to 1. I thought it was a decent display, but you're the man tasked with judging it. You've given it a 3-star. Why?
Look, I thought it was a decent display. Does it deserve? It's more on the price. You're looking at the price for Cheltenham, and you're trying to judge that. Look, he won easily on the bridle. Lots of good horses have won that race, like Nicky Sentboover there. John Bon won it last year. My Drogo won it. Like, it's obviously a hot maiden. He done it very well. Would you want to be on at 6-1 for the Supreme when you know Facile Vega's hanging about there? My interest in what I wanted to bring up with him was the price for the Ballymore. He's a 12-1 shot for that. We regularly see 2 mile grade 1 winners or 2 mile good horses at 2 miles go up to the 2.5, and it's regularly a kind of a nice avenue into the Ballymore. You need speed in that race. I'd be half looking at that price as well for the Ballymore. But look, I thought he was grand. He's a big price. He cost a lot of money. Obviously bought as a 4-year-old, and he did it well. He was odds on and went clear easily enough. He'll be a bigger test, obviously, await him. So I don't think you can give him any more than 3 stars for now. We'll wait to see.
It's usually the tried and tested route, isn't it? The beginning place for Nicky, where he sends obviously winners.
On pure form terms, I just think on pure form terms, you can't give him much more. Like Dawn Rising probably achieved more at Navan, beating American Mike and the horse that felt last there, Affordale Fury. I was down at Gordon's today, very disappointed with American Mike. What's
the update there?
Yeah, just disappointed with them. Didn't think it was as true running. I watched the race and thought maybe they went too hard in front, and Dawn Rising has come and picked them up. I did think that Dawn Rising would have picked up Affordale Fury. He was a tired fall at the last as well. But no answer American Mike had once he went past.
I thought it was a super run by Affordale Fury, because I'm looking forward to seeing this horse when he goes back up to 3 miles again. It was kind of a bit puzzled as to why Noel dropped him in trip. I know he was a bit free in Galway, but that was the horse. I thought he had American Mike well cooked. The only thing is they did get locked in a battle up front. I think Dawn Rising, to be honest, probably just picked up the pieces. You've given Dawn Rising a 3-star rating.
Possibly could have given Gun 3.5 there. He just regard to the winner, because he has a chance he could be a little bit underrated now because of what happened to American Mike there and Affordale Fury falling to last. Like 14-1 shot for the Ballymore, but maybe more interestingly, a 16-1 shot for the Albert Bartlett. Like he was a mile. He was only beaten by William Haggis's good horse Al Azzi in a Bahrain Trophy over mile 5 on the flat by Galileo. He's obviously going to stay well. He showed at Navan he stayed well. He really obviously looked like he was going to get with the wash and turn it for home, and came home very strongly. Really good staying performance. So Albert Bartlett.
What's the old
possibly
phrase?
be.
Stare on the flat, stare over hurdles, Mr. Groome.
I think if you're winning, or you're competitive in a Group 3 on the flat over mile 5, you've every chance of going strongly over hurdles. So, look, he's an interesting one. Joseph, for a fella who's trying to trim down his jumps team, he has some very nice horses this year. He won the Comfort Zone, was a nice winner, the first in Navan as well. So yeah, Dawn Rising, possibly more of an Albert Bartlett angle there. 16-1 would probably be more interesting to me than going down the Ballymore route.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Dawn Rising. I think was it Killarney or Listowel?
Listowel.
Yeah, Listowel. He really caught the eye down there. But I just have a feeling that Affordable Fury, I'm not sure it was American Mike's running. The one I'm most interested in going forward this season is Affordale Fury, and Noel Mead was quick to correct me. I called him Affordable Fury.
I wrote that as well in my preview. Lots of people have done that. Yeah.
Yeah, Noel was pretty quick to correct me earlier on the season, but that's the one I thought he had American Mike well cooked. A lot of people are saying it was a tired fall. No, I like him. I like him a lot going forward. He'd be the one I take out of the race, and hopefully all is well with that horse this morning. Looking at the I suppose the star ratings for myself, first one up. Nicky was obviously at Newbury. Funny, what were they calling Nicky Henderson? Nikolai Hendersoff with the hat. We'll come to that in a moment. But obviously all the attention was on Constitution Hill, but I thought the performance, I was very close to giving this a 5-star rating. The only reason I didn't was probably the form in behind. Look, the Skelton horse went off a mad clip. Henderson has a good record in this race. He won it with Floressa, finished second in it last year with a horse with no name. And obviously LUCCIA wins it this year. She's 2 from 2 over bumpers. I was really impressed with how professional she was. She's bred. She's very classy. The dam was placed in a listed contest. She's by the Gurkha. I was majorly impressed with her at Sandown last year on ground. Probably that wouldn't be ideal for her. Looking at her pedigree, you'd think she'd want a bit of quicker ground. This LUCCIA, I think she's a massive player for the Mayor's Novices Hurdle. She's obviously a May foal. She's only a 4-year-old. 5-year-olds have a really decent record when it comes to Cheltenham. The first 4 runnings of the Dawn Run was won by a 5-year-old. Last year, obviously, won by Love Envy. She was an older mare. But this was a really smart performance. As debuts go, it was a really true run race. Mentioned the form in behind. The Skelton mare is rated 119. I think she'll end up a lot better than that. But she made it a true test. LUCCIA settled nicely behind. She jumped very, very professionally. What I liked the most about her, she's a lovely long stride, this filly. But what I love most about her was she idles. That's probably where I knocked her half a star. She idled after the last. And when James Bone got one crack into her, she just went away again. Her ears were pricked at the line. I think this is a filly with lots of ability. 17 lengths winner at Sandown. If you saw any of the Nicky Henderson stable tours, this filly was lucky to come away with her life, apparently. It was a stifle injury leading up to Aintree. She was meant to run at Aintree and didn't. But she is a massive player for me in the Dawn Run. And I just thought that was a performance that went under the radar, and it was very, very close to giving her a 5-star rating, Mr. Groome. Second of the performances, what about this from Grange Clare West? This was really, really good at Navan. Performance of the day for me at Navan. Over 2.5 miles. Obviously, he was 1 from 1 over bumpers. Was majorly exciting going hurdling. What was his issue? I wasn't entirely sure. Why do you know, Mr. Groome, why he was off the track for so long?
I didn't actually know. I didn't recall.
No,
so for the money.
So from a punting perspective, it was very much a watching brief. He was strong enough in the market. Jumped a bit big on occasions, but this horse never even had to get a smack, did he? After the line, just the way someone actually asked the question, and we'll come on to the big question section. What tracks do we look at with a view to Cheltenham? Any horse that comes up the hill in Navan like that has a serious engine. And I thought that was a good race. I think the second, the third, and the fourth, which we'll come to later on in a different section of the show. That was a really good performance. He jumped a bit big, but he jumped the last like he'd loads in hand. The way he just stormed up the hill. The question now on everyone's lips is Ballymore or Albert Bartlett. I think this horse oozes class. I'd be saying Ballymore. at this point in time. I've no reason to think why they would go up and trip with a horse of this class. The way he cruised through the race, was a touch keen as well in the early part. Eventually settled, but this was a very good performance. A 4-star for me. I'll mark LUCCIA half a star higher. And I know you did argue with me when we spoke about Fildor. You were asking me why did I only give him a 3. You haven't me questioning myself actually, Ronan, when on this. They pulled miles clear of the third, didn't they? Yeah. How strong was the race? I get the impression with Fildor though, surely 2.5 miles has to be on the radar sooner rather than later. I mean, he idled coming into the last. It was the two of them were hammer and tongs down to the last. He slowed up, does he jump at the pace that you need for a 2-mile chase around Cheltenham, an Arkle chase? Does he have, was he quick enough? Obviously, it was his first try over 2 miles over fences. But for me, as a horse I would see going up and trip, would be dangerous now with the allowance at Christmas time, you'd have to think. But for spring festivals, I'd be hoping that they might step him up and trip Fildor. Obviously,
I think he was very good over the fences there. Now, you taking that he's won their same race that Duvan, Vautour, Min won, all started over 2 miles. I would have said the same as you, but he had the pace to go with Saint Rod. The two of them came clear, and then he outstayed him. You'd love the way he hit the line.
Oh yeah, that was like he hit the line harder than he. I suppose he hit the line so hard. He was better at the line than he was anywhere else in the race. That's for sure.
And like that's for Cheltenham. Like it was funny. I was watching it on RT Racing, and Ted Walsh was getting excited as Ted Walsh does, and he says he started crabbing the English horses. He's like, "Oh, what would they be asked? What would they have over in Britain? This is the proper racing." And then I think something clicked with him, and he forgot. Yeah, oh yeah, John Bond was good. Yeah, John Bond is quite good. So he kind of only realised what he said after he said it, but he was kind of making the point that it was a great race for a beginner's chase. I know you agree with them. The two of them, two right good horses come clear. Like Samra, like
I just wonder will he run into a couple better than him over 2 miles over fences around Cheltenham? That's just my worry. He's a 10-1 with BOYLESPORTS now for the Arkle. Not for me, I must say.
He goes, just a quick update on him. He goes for the 2 mile grade 1, as you said, at Christmas, along with possibly Hollow Games as well, Gordon said today. So both of them could be on track for the 2 mile grade 1.
That's interesting. Drinmore, who goes?
Three Stripe Life, I think, and possibly Mighty Potter as well.
Will you run the two of them against each other?
I would imagine so, yeah. Two different owners. Likes to win the race. They both won 2.5 miles probably. So
they've ran each other. They've ran against each other over hurdles.
They have, yes. They were first and second in the grade 1 at Leopardstown last Christmas, and yeah. So there you go.
Interesting. Well, that's it. So I've given Fildor a 3 for his performance. One final look at those star ratings. If anyone has any comments or wants to rate those performances themselves in the comments, please do so. I think LUCCIA went very much under the radar on a Saturday that Nikolai Hendersoff, of course, had Constitution Hill, all the rave up at Newcastle. Right, Ronan Groome, it's time for the next section of the show. And now, of course, it is the Tracker Horse.
BOYLESPORTS, this is betting.
So, the Tracker Horse, Mr. Groome, what have you got for us this week? Now, I put 3 in last week. One has since come out and won again, Jungle Pros. What a mare she is. She got another £12 today for that win.
Yeah, that's what, £52? Up £52 since she started. Yeah. Sensational. My tracker horse was in her race, would you believe? The horse in third, her stablemate there, I'm not gonna pronounce this properly. Boda Savata. It's a Rob Core horse. Boda Savata. It's a Rob Core horse for Gordon, only a 5-year-old, making his debut. Look at the way this horse stayed on at the straight. Came from unpromising position, really stayed on well. He's off a mark of 117. I think this could end up being a possibly a Pertemps horse, maybe even better than that. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't win a couple off 117 and get himself into contention for something at Cheltenham. I love the way he came from the back. Really eye catcher there. Boda Hizavata and Navan. Just a winning performance I liked at Newbury. Thought Amarillo Sky. Wow, very, very sharp from the front in the 2 mile chase there. I'm possibly getting into a rating now where he's going to be between two stools, probably not good enough for a grade 1 or grade 2, but love the way he did it at Newbury. Jumping from the front, kicked on again, real improving type for Joe Tizard. So that was a winning performance I like, but for one that maybe might go a little on the radar, this Boda Savata, keep an eye on him.
So you're just giving us the one this week, are you?
Just the 1/2. I didn't want to. Amarillo Sky's not really a track horse because he's won so well. So I said I'd do an official one with Boda Hizavata.
Okay, we've mentioned Grange Clare West. We've given him a 4-star for his performance. Mentioned a couple of horses in behind him. Kuda Shiva, is that how I pronounce it? That one finished third. Won a point-to-point by 12 lengths. Was making its race course debut for Henry the Bromhead. Finished 12 lengths off Grange Clare West. That went for a pretty penny, 375,000 after winning its point-to-point. But look at the horse who actually finished officially 4th. My Trump Card in the Bective colours. This is a race that Gordon has traditionally thrown out a couple of horses with handicaps in mind for the spring. The likes of O'Floran Volcano, wide receiver, was second in it. But you just watched, there was 2 separate races going on. There was the race with Grange Clare West, Kuda Shiva, and I think it was Firm Footage finished second. There was 2 different races going on. Head of the second race was My Trump Card, and he wasn't even in the picture at the last, and finished second a stride past the line, if that paints a picture for you. Didn't jump the most fluent now. Will need to brush up on his jumping, but the ground he made up from the back of the last was that's what you call an eye catcher. Has to go into the tracker. That's My Trump Card for another tracker horse for Gordon Elliott in the Bective colour. So interested in him, and that was just his first start on the race course. Only a 4-year-old. So yeah, that's the tracker horse for this week, Ronan Groome. Next section of the show is, of course, the big question. We've 2 of them this week. It's time now for the big question.
Boyle Sports, this is betting.
So the big question this week, Ronan, we've taken one from Twitter, and we have also taken one from the comments in YouTube. Now, you will see above, get your question in. We are going to answer 2 questions on every one of these shows right throughout the remainder of the series. And this week's questions coming in from Simon Curry and Michael O'Connor via YouTube. Now, Simon, we'll take Simon's one first, Ron. I did want to ask this to you because Kilcrut, possibly under the radar. Simon Curry says, is it me or has Kilcrut's performance been overlooked by the bookies? Discuss, chaps. Kilcrut.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's always going to be that type of talk up horse, Kilcrut, what he did in his bumpers. And then, no qualms about it. He was disappointing last season over hurdles. A season that started off at a 10-length loss at a whatever he was, 10s on, and never really got back on track after that. Willie, very positive about him in the stable tour at the start of the season. And he did it well at Punchestown. I thought it jumped a bit sticky early on and then grew into the race. And Paul Townend referenced that after the race. He said something very nice about him. He said he was looking for his next fence. He was excited about it. The horse really wanted to find the next fence. Jumped really smooth towards the end of the race. What did he beat? Very, very little.
Willie Wampus.
Willie Wampus, who I made a case for in a 0 to 102 rated beginner's chase. And he nearly won as well, but
I think he got bet by about 30 lengths, and beat him by just 11.
Very, 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 very little. So I think that's where Simon's worrying about. Like, you love the way he did it, won easily, form wise, not up much. Big test coming ahead for Crush down the line. So that's where we will see. That's where his mettle will really be tested. So I'd hope for. He's around 16 to 1 shot for the Turners. I think that's fair assessment of where he's at now, possibly even on the short side.
Patrick Mullins, was he quoted in talking about Statler? He jumps like you're playing PlayStation on him, just so efficient. That's what came to mind with Kilcrot.
Towards the end, yeah. At the start, he was a bit sticky, I thought.
Yeah, no, I had no question marks about his jumping whatsoever. I thought he jumped very, very professional.
He improved as the race went on, I thought.
Yeah, the question for me is what trip, because literally you could probably see him at any trip between 2 miles and 3 miles 6 furlongs. He's that sort of an athletic horse. You could genuinely see him run at any of those trips. The question is, will he be good enough in the spring to take on the big guns from Willie Gordon, and obviously beyond? So that's the question with Kilcrot. I think you could take a lot of encouragement from his performance. If you were to nail me down to a trip at this point in time, I think you have it spot on. I think intermediate distance could be the. Would you be surprised if he actually genuinely shaped up into a national hunt chase horse?
No, I wouldn't. No, because I think they
always the family connection, and Patrick would love to ride, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess that could be. And like the national chase, people will think it's a 4-mile race, but they go very slow and then they pick up. Like, you don't really. Sometimes I think the distance there is a little overrated, I guess. So it possibly could be. Yeah.
A tall, leggy individual, similar potentially to Statler. I mean, Statler you could have saw running over 2.5 miles last year, stepped him up to 3 miles 6 furlong, and was the most impressive performance at the Cheltenham Festival for me last season. It was the takeaway performance. So that's Simon's question. The other big question then comes in, and I think it's a really decent question as well, Mr. Groome, from Michael O'Connor. He asks, question for episode 4, how do you think the new whip rules affecting Irish jockeys will affect Irish jockeys coming over to Cheltenham, seeing as the rules will be in place just 4 weeks before the festival, and jockeys in the UK will probably have a little bit more time to adjust. We were speaking about this off air. It's probably the perfect time to bring Paul Carberry out of retirement, is it? Or maybe Keith Donoghue.
Or his protege, Keith Donoghue, yeah.
I'd say play on, ref. We need to organise some sort of a strike in the tack room for this. It's not something I have a major opinion on. I cannot believe still that this rule has been brought in, whether it be Ireland or the UK. I think it's horrendous.
Tell you what, though, Michael's asking the question there. It's a great question, because I think this is going to be a big story when Cheltenham comes around. I think the decision to bring the rule in so close to Cheltenham is madness, absolute madness. Why not bring it in during the summer? Let it bed in for a bit. Let it iron out any problems. Let the jockeys get used to it. When there's the races aren't obviously. There's not as much on the line as there is at Cheltenham, which literally will make or break a jockey, trainer, owner season. I think there's a recipe for disaster at Cheltenham, and it could be a huge story when the time comes along. Obviously, we should specify your horse. If you lose a race because your jockey breaks the whip rules, the bookies are going to pay out first past the post. The race will only be decided in a subsequent, down the line after the race through an appeal process or a disciplinary process or whatever will award the race then. But what a terrible way to win a race at Cheltenham. That would be a huge anticlimax for anyone involved. And obviously, the whip rules were quite in the headlines again with the Coral Gold Cup on Saturday, with Harry Skelton going well over the amount with his whip and getting a 7-day ban. So, look, you can see that the incentive is there for jockeys to go and break the rules, and this is the reason the whip rules are being brought in. I do think there is a bit of credit to that, to stop jockeys from overuse of the whip when other jockeys behave and don't overuse the whip. That's a quirk of the system at the moment, so I can't see why the rules were brought in for that. But I just think bringing it in so close to the festival, this is going to be a big story, and there's going to be people disappointed somewhere. Why not just bring it in during the summer? Let it give it a bit more time for people to get used to it. But we'll see.
Just come in there and say, why not bring it in at all? Because that's like, I just still can't believe that.
You don't want a situation like, I think that's wrong on Saturday. Like so remastered, and David Noonan doesn't break the rules, but Harry Skelton does on the Milos and wins the races. So you have one jockey who's abiding by the rules and one who isn't. And I think that there is a bit of credit for us in that.
Call this head in the sand, but no more talk about the whip on this show because I think it's the most ridiculous. It's a farce. Right, next section of the show. Thanks for the questions. Get them down next week. Those are questions, 2 questions every single week. Myself and the Golden Groom will be answering. Right, it's now the
Boyle Sports, this is betting.
The portfolio spotlight. And I did mention, Mr. Groom, seems to be just more and more interest as we go along. So lots of engaging followers of the show. And we'll get up to 84. That's just down as far as 80. But we've got 84 entries. And of course, the competition is to win on the eve of Cheltenham. That, of course, that hamper to the value of €500. So we'll be casting our eagle eye, and myself and the Golden Groom, over those portfolios. Now we're into week. We've played 3 weeks of this now. As you can see, some a little bit sluggish. You can see there, Jonathan Evans. You need to get your selection 3 in, or week 3 selection in. Shane Toner the same. Also, Cider Sorbet. What a name that is, from Surrey. Get your week 3 selection in. But you can see the bulk of this Ronan Groome has been filled up, and we're down to 84 who have entered the competition. We've spoken about this off air. It's play on as usual. Myself and Ronan are going to be taking Boyle Sports prices and getting them enhanced for you guys. But in terms of the competition, we're going to be taking entries right up until week number 5. So still time to get involved. And let's really make a push on for this competition on the road to Cheltenham. So still plenty more episodes to get involved. You can see the 2 we've highlighted, Ronan, Simon O'Neill and Stevie Boyd. Simon O'Neill's from London. He's put in 3 selections, and I'm going to have a look at Stevie Boyd from Armagh. First, you're going to take you're going to put your eagle eye.
Yeah,
over Mr. Simon O'Neill.
Yeah, Simon's taking alongside with me. He's a high senior fan. Don't give up on a high senior. People, I see he's 25-1 for the Gold Cup now. I'm a forgiving person. I'm sure Simon is as well, and he hasn't given up on that ticket. We'll see Heisinger out later in the season, and it was just one bad run. You allow a horse one bad run always, I think. I like Simon's style because he's shooting a bit for the moon here, and gone with Sporting John. I know that's a horse you like, Basil, isn't it? He's I was just looking at his profile there, Sporting John, a bit disappointing first time out at Wetherby. He's still off a mark that they'll probably stay in handicaps. But the 3 mile division is one that you can get a springer from, so I can see where he's coming from there. And 66-1 is a big old price. And then he's gone for the Facker in a Ryanair that could open up. The Allaho thing is kind of weird, isn't it? It's a strange kind of way that all
Allaho
King George, yeah. So that's interesting. Like in a normal year, if Allaho goes, like, he probably wins. And Facker Dederis will be kept back for another Melling Chase entry bid.
Well, just with a view to our selection, just taking that point, because I've kind of identified certain races that, you know, I want to look further down the market. And the Ryanair is one of those markets, because there is obviously the question mark around Allaho at the moment. So he is holding up, 33%, if not more, 40% of the book at the moment. So, you know, to look further down that list, I can certainly see the angle. For me, Facker Dudery, once again, do they skip Cheltenham? That's the question. Yeah. Well,
no one's booking, no one's Ante-Post market is betting to anywhere near a decent over-end, I guess. But Allaho, I can say, I know what you mean. Once he comes out, if he came out of the race or he wasn't going to run, the race becomes significantly more open, and people, I guess, want to exploit that angle. If there is a question mark about whether he's going to run, you're getting significantly big prices about Facker Duduris. Is a multiple Grade 1 winner, possibly could go for the race and would be one of the best horses in the races if Allaho wasn't there. So I can see the angle for sure.
I'm going to come in because I'm going to get you to take a look at Stevie's as well. Just on a high senior, for me, jumping out to the right, he really needs to sort that out, especially around a track like Cheltenham. I really did like this horse early last season and right throughout the season with a view to potential Gold Cup 2023. He has a lot to prove now for me at this stage. Sporting John, the enigma, so much talent.
You don't become a bad horse overnight, though, Basil. You quick to write the horse off. Like he did jump right all last year as well, and got, like, it wasn't jumping right that did for him at Wetherby. Like,
I get that. I just would I back him at 25-1 at the moment? Probably not. So I'm not saying he can't come back. I'm not saying he can't prove me wrong, but for me, he has a lot to prove at the moment. Gold Cup, that's for Ahoy Senor. Sporting John, once again, a horse with enormous talent, I do believe. We put him up last season at 20-1 for the Stairs Hurdle, and he's put up there at 66s by Simon. For me, another horse with a lot to prove. And Fakir Dudery at 20-1. As I said, if that race cuts up, maybe he is a player for that. But Simon will be keeping our eyes on your week 4 selection, because for me, looking at that portfolio, you've a lot to prove yourself. Right, Stevie Boyd. Let's have a look at Flame Bearer is the first selection for the Arkle Chase, 16-1. Certainly Ronan the talking horse when it comes to Willie Mullins' horses that we haven't seen over a fence, albeit this horse, of course, did win a point-to-point.
Yeah, he's a good horse. Yeah, it was a nice horse last year for with him Doyle, and could be anything now. Obviously, he was close to the state man at Punchestown. Looking forward to seeing him. Still haven't seen him. Willie keeping a lot of his big guns back. He let 3 of them run against each other.
What sort of vibes did you get when you were down there as regards to Flame Bearer?
I haven't been down to Willie Mullins's. No, not this year. I didn't get down to his press morning, but by all means, I've heard
the vibes are certainly good. Time Hill Bubble Burst 8-1 for the Brown Advisory.
Yeah, I'm not sure. They might go back over hurdles, would they?
And there's a lot in here with Time Hill in their book, and for me, he jumped very well on debut, and lots of people were crabbing my opinion on that. I thought he jumped quite nicely on debut, but his jumping fell apart. There was that one jump coming up by the stands for the first time, and he just literally jumped straight up in the air and nearly landed on top of the fence. It was such a strange jump. But Tyne Hill, Bubble Burst, I think there, guys, back over hurdles for me. Manila Cocooner, because I was actually looking at him as a potential for the Brown Advisor, which is another race I've kind of ring-fenced for early on in this series. Manila Cocooner, Turner's Chase. What did you make of his chasing debut at Gorn? For me, he was very novice-y. I was expecting better.
Bit novice-y, but grew into it a bit as the race went on. Another Cheveley Park horse that's come back from a long layoff, classic getaway, or not off a long layoff, but he never really got going over hurdles. Another huge price. I think he was 570, was he, or 530? Much like Grange Clare West. So he could be a player as well in the market. As I said, will he let all his horses run there? I thought he was fine. I thought maybe in time he'll go up to 3 miles, or he'll stay at 2.5 miles, we'll see, but I thought he was okay.
Just to mention for a couple who've obviously have Jet Power put in 14-1 for the Supreme Novices Hurdle in, of course, the 6s. Congratulations there. One of the guys has that. Alex Mansfield. Good selection there from Alex. And yeah, I'm sure you're sitting happy after the weekend. So we'll be taking 2 of these every week. Continue to get your selections in. Of course, anyone who hasn't put selections in to date, and we are taking entries right up until week 5 here. So continue to get involved in the comments. Love looking at all the selections on the road to Cheltenham Challenge. Right, Mr. Groome, next section of the show, of course, is the most important section of the show. It is the Ante-Post Selections.
BOYLESPORTS, this is betting.
So we might as well get on with it, Mr. Groome. You will give you the honours once again. Just to say, we're going to put selection in each this week, and BOYLESPORTS are going to kindly enhance it until the close of business tomorrow. That is, of course, the 29th. So anyone who wants to get involved in the selections, BOYLESPORTS have kindly enhanced both the selections by 2 points this week, Ronan Groome. So if you can't beat me getting enhanced odds this season, you'll never beat me. Let's jump into it. Your selection this week is?
Gone for 3 Stripe Life for the Turners Novice Chase. Yeah, so I was down at Gordon's day and I got to ask him about this horse. Just about his debut, and I think he's going to run this Sunday in the Drinmore. So he was coming clear there with Grand Jury. Sadly, that horse had a fatal fall to second last. The race was on from there. It looked like it was going to be a good beginner's chase. 3 Stripe Life had jumped well up to that point. Looked like it was going to be a good race, and then obviously he's been left clear.
Do you think he was careful at 1 or 2, Ronan?
Maybe a bit careful, yeah. But Davy Russell was talking about him on the road to Cheltenham there with Lydia and Ruby, and he seemed happy enough with them. Thought he did it well. Grew into the race. Got better as time went on. Obviously, he hasn't turned into much of a race with Grand Jury coming out, and he's won well. But Gordon was just telling me today he blew very hard after the race. He's a big, gross horse. Thinks he'll come on a lot for the race. Asked about his distance, he said 2.5 miles would be absolutely fine from now. Doesn't see the need to go up to 3 miles. That's perfect. And he thinks there's lots of improvement to come from him. Like, he was a proper Grade 1 animal last year. Overheard, bumped into Sir Gerhard twice. We don't know what Sir Gerhard is doing at the moment. Willie's held him back. Maybe he goes over hurdles. Maybe he could be an Arkle horse. 3 Stripe Life looks solid, rock solid 2.5 mile horse. Really, really good form at Cheltenham, having chased home Sir Gerhard. And earlier did the same at the Dublin Racing Festival. He's the only horse that could get close to Sir Gerhard last season. And then won his Grade 1 at Aintree. At the moment, I think 8-1 is a rock solid price for a horse. Look, Willie, you're guessing where are they going to go? They're novices. There are loads of options. What's he going to do? We don't even know if he's going to go chasing yet. Sir Gerhard with 3 Stripe Life. Gordon's already said 2.5 miles is very likely going to be his trip. If he gets back to Cheltenham, it's very likely he goes for the Turners, and that's solid for me. That the Ante-Post bet you're going to have is probably going to run in the race that you backed it for. Half the battle at these days is backing the horses for the right races. So, look, I think 3 Stripe Life's proper Grade 1 horse over hurdles, and looks so far like he could be as good, if not better, over fences. So I'm looking forward to seeing him possibly this Sunday in Drinmore.
Yeah, certainly is the right week to get him in, Ronan Groome, if you do fancy. We did, of course, flag him up on the, of course, the Jumpers to Follow video, and 6 to 7 is freely available. But BOYLESPORTS have kindly given 8-1 on your selection, Ronan Groome. So you will see the link below for the next, until the close of business tomorrow, which is the 29th. If you want to click the link below in the video description and avail of some of that 8-1 on 3 Stripe Life. Thanks very much once again to the sponsors for that. My selection, Ronan Groome, we've already, would you believe it, mentioned her on the show, and it is LUCCIA. I think she ticks an awful lot of boxes for the Dawn Run Mares hurdle at the Cheltenham Festival. 4s, 5s is available out there, but BOYLESPORTS have been very, very generous, and we're going to chalk her in onto the team sheet at 6-1. That's LUCCIA for the Mares hurdle. That is my week 4 selection. And look, we spoke about it already on the show, Mr. Groome. I thought this performance potentially went under the radar. I think, look, she's 2 from 2 over in bumper. She was meant to go to Aintree, had a setback that's, as Nicky Henderson said, almost cost her life. But she's back rocking and rolling. Very professional debut. What I love most about the race was the skeleton mare really set it up for her. So she went hammer and tongs down the back. And you were all eyes were on LUCCIA's jumping. She jumped very, very professionally. She coasted to the front, a big, gorgeous stride on this horse. And which I suppose, I think if there was anything to crab, potentially she got to the front too soon. And she wasn't doing very much in front. Got a smack after the last, and she was gone again. Her ears were pricked at the line. I think she was only just doing enough. Nicky obviously finished second in the race last season with a horse with no name, who is still going to be aimed at the Down Run Novice again this season. So do bear that in mind. But in terms of the, I suppose, the favourites, the current favourites across all of the races at Cheltenham, she's one that certainly catches the eye. And LUCCIA, I think she could be very, very good. And 6-1, it's not a bad old price, is it, Mr. Groome?
6-1's a fine price. So she's very good as well. I have to agree with you. Getting the enhancement there is where it's well worth watching these videos for our season, because we're getting nice enhancements on horses impressive as her. I might get involved in that myself. Yeah,
so LUCCIA and 3 Stripe Life, the selections for week 4 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. Finally, Ronan Groome, before we wrap up the episode, the last section, and we are going to, I suppose, include this along with, I suppose, an Ante-Post preview, some other big races, the likes of the King George. We might take a look at that next week. Bigger races, Ante-Post aren't necessarily Cheltenham. We might even take a look at the Grand National in the coming weeks. But the final selection is in relation to this week, and it is Annie.
BOYLESPORTS, this is betting.
So best bets this week, Ronan Groome. Anything kind of catching the eye in the tracker with in relation to this week or the weekend? Do you want to start or shall I?
I've had a quick look at the races today and not come up with a possible bet as of yet. Obviously, it's a huge weekend with the triple grade ones at Fairyhouse, and then obviously Tingle Creek on Saturday at Sandown. Looking forward to seeing Shishkin again, as I'm sure you are. You've obviously been quite vocal on what he's.
Have you given up on Gentleman to Me? Have you at this stage?
I'm not sure. Does he run? Will he run in the Tingle Creek? Interesting if he does. I think Captain Guinness could run well at a big price, each way kind of angle there, or play without the favourite or something like that.
Grenadine is currently 7-4 with BOYLESPORTS. I think that's the play. I think this horse is. We put him up. He was given tons of weight away, wasn't he, in the Holland Gold Cup? I think he's a better horse. This horse still improving. He's only 8. And for me, this is his. This probably is his real Gold Cup, isn't it? Like, whatever he done at Exeter, Grenadine could be very difficult to beat, and I would be certainly at odds against 7-4. Will be taking on Shishkin, who's currently even money. If they both run, certainly will be in the Grenadine camp. Just a couple to mention. Proper 12 runs tomorrow. He's currently 13-8 with BOYLESPORTS. I think that's this horse mentioned Deep Cave. He was an eye catcher on last week's show. Deep Cave beats Proper 12 by 6 lengths. I think Deep Cave is a proper horse, and I think Proper 12 is quite a decent horse and has come for a bit of support. 13-8 for Chris Gordon. Tomorrow, Quaid Paris. That's a horse I cannot wait to see if declared for Thurles on Thursday. That's Quaid Paris. Obviously, Dysart Dynamo, all eyes. He was my week 1 selection in the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. All eyes on him if he is declared, of course. Instee is also a mare who I'm looking forward to seeing going chasing for Willie Mullins. I think she looked an out-and-out chaser. She's also declared in that race. Be interesting to see if he does run Dysart. But for me, the horse that I suppose that stands out of the tracker this week, he's been entered at least 4 times, I think, now since the start of the season. He's been doing the rain dance, Ben Pauling, and was in the Jumpers to Follow video. Shake 'em Up Barry might just get his soft ground and is entered at both Exeter and Aintree. I'd imagine Aintree is a track that he's run well in the spring last season. Up to 2.5 miles from 2 miles at Aintree, a big galloping track. I think could be 2 Shake 'em Up Harry's liking, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him go off favoured. So Shake 'em Up Harry at the weekend. I'd imagine Aintree would probably be the plan, of course, that he's won at previous as opposed to Exeter. But I suppose it does depend on the ground. Anything finally before we wrap up?
No, that's it for me.
That's it. We'll be back next week. Pity about Velvet Elvis, 20-1 into 7-1. Disappointing.
He ended up like you on the end of your wedding night. Absolutely bananas.
Yeah, we'll be back on Thursday, looking ahead to the weekend's race, and of course the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. Get your big questions in, and of course we are taking entries right up into week 5. The prize is, of course, the hamper valued at €500. Ronan Groome's Eagle Eye will be watching on all those selections down below. So thanks very much for all the support, and thanks once again to our new sponsors, BOYLESPORTS. And thanks again for the enhancements. The links are below if you want to follow us in. Of course, the show was in profit for the last 2 seasons, and now we're getting enhancements on top, Mr. Groome. What's not to like?
Inside the final 150 yards, this is a special year, and it's a Hattons full of grace. And it's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2-mile novices. Energumen by a romping 10.
Download the BOYLESPORTS app and receive generous offers for new and existing customers. BOYLESPORTS, this is betting.